Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host Tony Cañas pitching the second one of a header. And today I have with me Jenn Urso. I hope I got the last name correct. Uh,
Did.
Fantastic, thank you. Leadership coach and also creates learning and development programs for companies. So first of all, Jenn, thank you for joining me today. Happy Friday. How are you doing?
Thank you, Tony. I'm so excited to be here.
Fantastic. So we met at Meg McKean's, and you thank you for reminding me, at Meg McKean's
Bound and
Bound and Determined
determined
live,
live.
which was
That's right.
our first live for both of us here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I've been in the midst of conference season, so so it's hard for me to tell time. This was somewhere between a week and 6 weeks ago. I think somewhere in the last 2 weeks.
I think
Uh,
I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
okay, perfect. And it was an awesome experience, an absolutely awesome experience. Meg, for the 19,000th time, thank you so much for what you do. I think Meg is responsible for more podcast guests than anybody else, because I've connected so many people from her circle. Uh, and if you are a woman in the industry, in the insurance industry, you should be listening to Bound and Determined. If you are a guy in the insurance industry, you should be listening to Bound and Determined.
That's right.
And if you are a woman in the industry, keep an eye on Meg's live schedule, because it is a really it is. I have never had an experience like that. That was amazing. I was the only guy in the room. It's a small group of, I want to say, maybe 15 people in a beautiful venue, which of course changes city by city. In this case, I was the only guy in the room. I don't know how often guys show up. Uh, it's not that you're not invited, but given that it's a limited space, it's very much meant for women in the industry. And if you have the chance to go to a Bound and Determined live, take the time to go.
Yeah, I just want to second that real quick because Meg McKean is fantastic and her perspective on the industry is so fresh and so raw and honest and compassionate. And so being in a room with a bunch of humans, men and women, was so refreshing to have a really vulnerable conversation, what it feels like mostly to be a woman in insurance, the good, the bad, some of the ugly. So, yep, if you have the opportunity to see it live, go for it.
Truly, truly, and it was, the price might change. She does have sponsorship from a Liberty Mutual,
Rise.
the not Rise Insurance Executives, but Rise Liberty's Women's Network.
That's yes.
So she does have sponsorship. The price might change per city, but I think it was like $25. Uh, it is so worth it. So yes, go. This is not my own quote. It is a quote that somebody else left on Meg's podcast at some point years ago. Meg's voice is like a warm embrace,
Yeah, it really is.
and I couldn't agree with it more. And
Yes.
Meg, in person, is a warm embrace, and the community the environment she creates around her, the community she creates around her, is a space that doesn't exist anywhere else in insurance.
Yeah.
Uh, so yes, so it was awesome to meet you there. So Jenn, we always give the guest a chance to give the elevator pitch, and it's a conversation. Uh, so leadership coach and learning programs for companies. Yeah, tell us about what you do.
Yeah, I'll be brief, but I want to give a little bit of background to kind of frame the conversation. So I started working in insurance in 2007 at a broker. And then I joined an insurance trade association in Washington, D.C. in 2012. And I was there for 6 years. I was head of a market intelligence insights team. And at that time in my life, I found that I loved a lot of what I was doing there. I loved the leadership component of it. I loved managing working groups and masterminds and helping leaders, especially senior leaders, understand what was going on in the industry and how that should influence their own development and growth for themselves personally, and then also for their teams and their companies. But I found myself at a crossroads. I really wanted to focus more on the leadership component. I have a background in business management and organizational development, which really means aligning the goals of a company to the people, really helping people to understand their strengths, their impact, their own legacy as a leader, and how they can become more of a leader. So I decided in 2018 to take a career break. I traveled the world for about 6 months, had all kinds of rich, transformative experiences that helped to shape my own perspective and my desire to be an advocate for professionals in the workplace who want to be better leaders and create better products and services and companies because of better leadership. So that's how I got to this place today.
A lot of parallels between you and Meg. Like very,
Yes.
very interesting. All
Yes,
right. All
exactly.
right.
That's why we've connected so well.
I I kind of can't believe that you and I had not met before. I don't think we had met before. Although we connected since 2023. Uh,
Yeah, we connected briefly through IE, Ensure Equality.
which I've got to say was the only other thing in insurance that had a Meg McKean like feel.
Yeah.
And it is currently dormant. And we'll bring it back. Don't know when or exactly how, but the conversations have started. I
Yeah.
met with Elisa Stamp last week in Chicago, and we'll bring it back. We just have to figure out exactly how. So did we
No,
meet at the
Tony,
conference?
let me say that what I love is witnessing this newfound, I guess, perspective and community building amongst insurance people that have a different flavor to it. You know, to really talk about equality in the industry, to talk about the experience of women in the industry, to talk about how the industry is changing or perhaps isn't changing that we need it
Isn't
to.
changing fast enough for sure.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
it is changing, but I think that it's optimistic to me that these kind of conversations are happening.
Absolutely, absolutely. The industry as it exists today is significantly different from the industry that I joined originally in 2009
Mhm.
as a call center rep at Farm Bureau of Iowa. Um, is it changing fast enough? No, but I see signs of improvement. Um, when it comes to the women's side of our industry, which by the way is more than 50% of the industry.
Yeah.
In fact, in the in the kind of entry level roles, it's something like 55 or 60%. Uh, on the agency side, I'm a carrier side guy. I'm a carrier side guy who accidentally runs an insure tech, the largest insure tech podcast in the country, and who recruits for a little bit for carriers, a lot for insure techs, and a good amount for brokers, especially for account managers, some
Mm.
producers. The account manager role in the agency space is almost 100% women. It's
Yeah.
slowly diversifying, but it's almost 100% women. The producer role is, if I had to guess, like 80% men. Uh, and the agency principal role, agency owner role, is also like 85, 90% men, right? And that's not healthy for the industry in any way. It doesn't reflect the communities we serve.
Mhm.
And then the carrier side, which is my world more so, uh, same story.
Mhm.
Lots of women in the entry level, and then somehow along the way, each level you have less and less women. And very often, especially at a large carrier, you end up with, I don't want to say the word token because I know that they've earned their way there, but it's funny how often you end up with a Black woman leading HR
Mm.
and being the only C-level woman,
Mm.
right? And it just gives you pause, right? And every one of them that I've met is fantastic. They earned their way there. Sweat, tear, and bloods for sure. I'm not saying they're the DI hire,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
has become a bad word. Uh, what I'm saying is, why don't we have more women in the right? We have so few female CEOs in the top 100 carriers that all three of them were at Rice Leadership Conference 2 years ago in Fort Lauderdale at the same conference at the same time, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
This this is a yeah, I mean, I love that this is coming up because I think it is a common question, a common point, and I'm glad that it's becoming a common point and versus being in the shadows around there's a lot of people in insurance. And when you look at how many women are in leadership, there's a very clear gap there. And I do want to be positive about this. And so I'll offer from my perspective that a lot of the insurance people that I know, particularly senior insurance men, have started talking openly about why is it like this? And
that
that's who we need to be voices for change.
that is a big part of the radical change I've seen
Yeah.
from 2009 to today, and it's amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I like that this is a conversation around, like I know some male executives personally who have talked about giving up their board seat at important industry places, and also who have initiatives around more female producers and more female leadership. And so, yeah, I think that it does take a long time to turn something as big as this kind of industry. Yet I remain really hopeful that this is a question people are asking. This is an initiative out there. And are we seeing the change? I think it's slow, but I do think it's starting to happen.
I agree. I agree 1,000%. And for any woman who happens to listen to this conversation and has not been connected with the rest of the resources, right? Has not been connected with any of the women in insurance groups that have existed for a long time, that has not listened to Meg's podcast, that has never been to a women in insurance conference. Start looking into it, because you will find that the level of support today to help you grow, and to help you grow in a way that's authentic to who you are,
And
is
can
massive.
I also add
Absolutely.
authentic, but also in a way that's aligning with market conditions, because I think that it can be a little dangerous when we have these voices out there, like the manifestation voices. And I think that like that's cool, but like you can have anything you want, right? Just believe it's possible. And I think a healthy, empowered mindset is fantastic, but it has to align with market conditions of
Agreed.
what's
Absolutely.
feasible out there.
Absolutely. Yes, 1,000%. A 1,000%. So Jen, nourished leadership.
Yeah.
I am guessing that is a trademark Jenn Urso phrase. I had not heard it before. What is nourished leadership?
Yeah, it's part of my brand. And basically, there's three pillars underneath that, which is self leadership, soft power, and self care. So I'll go through each one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I got to this framework is because after coaching a couple of hundred of people, I looked at the data and said, what is it about the growth that these individuals are experiencing? And what are they doing inside of their companies that are helping them to be successful and remain successful? Because sustainability is important too, right? You get to a place
Absolutely. This is a
that you want to be
marathon.
successful, but you have to set up the right conditions to stay there and not burn out and continue growing and to experience happiness and joy inside of that career too. So those pillars came directly from data through my client work. And again, those pillars are self-leadership, which I think is the foundational element around our growth today. Self-leadership means that you take ownership over your professional and personal growth, that you understand who you are on a very deep level. You know your strengths, you know your values, you know your zones of genius and joy, and you direct your energy from those places. You align those with your goals. And of course, like I said, align it also with the goals of your company or the market overall. And then making sure that you are progressing. I know tons of companies that really want to help their people grow and activate their strengths, but they're limited on resources, whether that's time or personnel or money. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, I think that ownership of your growth means taking the initiative, taking the time, maybe even taking your own resources, your financial resources, and using it to understand who you are and the kind of impact you want to make in the world and how to make that possible. And then the second pillar is soft power. I don't think we have to go into that too much, that we know that these command and control tactics that once, worked, or I would say, kind of worked in the market, no longer are what people want to feel in leaders. And so understanding a healthy version of authority that is strategic and that works, but comes from a softer place.
I love that. A healthy version of authority.
Yes.
That say it again. So healthy version of authority that is, did you say
That
effect?
comes from a softer place. So no less strategic, no less powerful, no less successful. In fact, it is all of those things, but it just comes from a softer place that is focused on empathy and deep listening and presence and understanding the root cause of what drives people's behaviors and outcomes. So understanding how we can be a leader in a way that pulls people in versus pushing them down a path.
That 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 is beautiful, and I agree with absolutely everything you've said. Um, on the website, so I'm always looking at the LinkedIn and the website during the conversation.
Yeah.
Um, the note from Jenn,
Yes.
and I'm tempted to read the whole thing,
Okay.
but I invite the listeners to go read it. Jenn Urso, Jenn with two N's, and by the way, the website and the LinkedIn are both included in the show notes, but it's Jenn Jenn Urso URSO.com. Uh, so there's a short letter to the reader, where you introduce yourself as the founder of Nourished Leader Way, career strategist, coach, teacher, facilitator, ally, and you worked with Fortune 500 leaders and companies, startups, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, professionals in transition to redesign their path forward. That is very, very, very important. I run chatwithtony.com, which is free career advice for insurance professionals. I am not a certified career coach. In fact, I go out of my way to say, I will chat with you as many times as you want to. If the calendar lets you on, I will chat with you. But number one, I'm not certified in this. Number two, I don't hold you accountable. This is not
Hmm.
a process. In fact, I don't take notes and I won't remember because my memory is really bad. More than happy to chat again. But if you need a career coach, I can point you to some career coaches that really understand the insurance world, whether they're certified as career coaches or not. So I love the vision, and then I love the mission. Okay, so this part I will read. So my mission is to give you the courage, permission, tools, and roadmap to design a meaningful, creative career that is designed for your unique blueprint based on your work style, personality, values, and goals that integrates nourishing yourself into your plan rather than being an afterthought, and that adds value to the world. The way to this path is through self-leadership, soft power, sorry, and self-care. I'm here to help you craft a career and lifestyle of being a nourished leader. So happy you're here. And then below that is the join the newsletter. I joined the newsletter about 4 minutes ago. Uh,
Thank
and,
you.
and I
Thank
will be
you.
recommending it to everybody. All right. So I would love to hear. So if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically you do work both for the talent, for the people, for us, and also training, consulting, etc., for the companies. Okay.
Yes, that's correct. So
Perfect.
so most of my work is directly through a company.
Perfect.
So
Okay, perfect. But are you available if somebody wants to hire you for coaching?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
perfect.
absolutely.
So let's start with the corporate side.
Mhm.
How do you partner with companies? What type of companies? What do you do for them?
So I'm industry agnostic, but most of my clients fall within insurance
Okay.
or technology.
Okay,
So
perfect.
big tech. And I welcome clients from across any company because at the end of the day, leadership growth is leadership growth, and it's pretty similar across the board. It's helpful to have nuances in the ways that these kind of companies operate, but again, leadership is leadership. And so the way that I work with a company is to understand what their goals are around people, talent, and how growing someone's leadership skills will enhance the outcomes of a company. And I think that's an important distinction, because if a company says, I want you to come in and do a leadership training or workshop around name the skill, my first question is why? Like, what are you looking to shift or grow or change? And how is that going to enhance the outcome of your business? And I also don't shy away from the fact that profitability is really important. And so tying the profitability of a company to leadership growth, talent growth is really important. And I think it's a meaningful component that we have to talk about. So it would be understanding what are they trying to shift, and why is that important? And then putting together masterminds, which are internal groups that bring a group of people together to talk about shared challenges and opportunities. So what is their experience inside of the company? What feels challenging? What feels like an opportunity? And to be very clear, this is never ever a vent session, because coaching is always meant to be action oriented and growth oriented. And so even if there's a shared challenge, then the question becomes, what are the proposed solutions? How can you go out and try those? And then what do we need to tweak from there to make sure that you are moving outcomes along? It might look like workshops. It almost always includes one-on-one coaching as part of the programs for selected participants. And then sometimes it's building half-day or full-day retreats or speaking at conferences too. My mission is really to help people understand who they are. I think a lot of leadership development falls short in understanding who the person is. So we go in and we say, here's how to communicate. Here's how to work together better. Here's what collaboration looks like. Here's how we want you to be creative and innovate. But we don't first say, well, who are you? And that who is the soil from how we do things. So my passion really is to help people understand who they are, and people could be emerging talents as they start thinking about their own career paths. It's often mid-senior and senior leaders to talk about their ascension into even more senior roles. And then, sometimes C-suite founders and CEOs that are trying to maneuver a big ship. And again, they're thinking about their own legacy, succession plan, where the company is going, what they need to do to make it even better, and always a focus on better means quality talent.
Fantastic. Fantastic. What about on the private coaching? I don't know how you ready. If a regular professional wants to hire you for coaching, what does that look like?
Yeah, mostly what that looks like is someone who wants to understand their growth trajectory. And I'll say that, there have been numerous times in my own career, especially as a employee, where I have gone to an executive coach on my own and sought guidance to say, like, where do I fit in the world? I know that I like business, and I know that I like these certain elements of it, but what does that mean for me? And how do I craft a plan for my own career that is in aligned with who I am and what I want to do, and that I have more control over, versus waiting for my manager or HR or senior leadership to say, like, here's a few things that we see that you could do. I wanted to have more control over that conversation. And that started from knowing who I am. And so, and I will also say, since I'm on this topic, that one of my last employers also sponsored an executive coach for 2 years for me, which was a tremendous experience. Taught
Fantastic.
me so much about who I was and the leader that I was and who I was becoming and how to manage my team better. And so that also, I viewed it as one of the biggest rewards that an employer can have given me. And that
1,000%.
was a tremendous, tremendous experience. And so to go back to your question though, if I have a private client, someone who comes to me for coaching, it is usually to say, I know that I'm growth oriented as a person, as a professional. I don't entirely know what that means for my career though. Where do I continue to grow? How do I continue to grow? Can you help me carve out a plan, a compass, if you will? What is my career compass? So that, again, I feel greater ownership of it, and that what I'm doing is aligned with my personality, with my life goals, and my professional goals.
Perfect. Perfect. On the individual level, first session free or no, and what kind of commitment is it?
The discovery session, well, actually, I have like a 45-minute like get to know each other where
Perfect.
I'll ask a whole bunch of questions. That is
Hmm.
complimentary, yes.
Perfect.
I want people to feel out me, and I don't take on clients unless we go through at least one session together, because it is a commitment for both of us. And I want us both to be sure. And coaching can become quite intimate. You know, you're
Oh yeah.
sharing challenges, vulnerabilities. We're really digging into who you are and what your roadblocks might be. So I want it to be, it is a two-way path that we both feel like this is a good fit. And then the commitment, that depends. Generally 3 to 6 months though.
All right. All right. Um, right. Which direction to go now, right? So we talked about what you do, your background, your philosophy. Um, and at the beginning we had a great conversation on the overall industry and DEI within the women in the industry. Um, so
I have a question.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Tony, in your perspective, from all the conversations that you have, all the people that you know, what do you think are a couple of really exciting changes that you see actualizing right now, or that are a part of the conversation where there's been some movements? Like, what is exciting to you about the insurance industry right now?
Okay, so in general, the answer has always been, and then I'll talk about right now. So the answer has always been, this is a great career where you can do well while doing good for the world.
Mhm.
You'll get no social credit for it, right? People that like I even joke, if you're single, like I had a CPCU friend reach out and be like, hey, I have an offer. He's from Philadelphia. I have an offer in Atlanta. I've never left Philadelphia. Should I take it? The kid was very young. We're talking like 26, 27. Uh, and we talked about it, and I'm like, I think you'll be very happy here, right? One piece of advice: when you get here, don't put underwriter on your Tinder profile, right? Like you just don't get any social credit. People don't understand what we do, but it is an amazing career, and we do good stuff for the world. It's endlessly interesting. Uh, it's very stable.
Yes.
On the agent side, on the agent and broker side, it's incredibly profitable, maybe less stable, at least while you're building. The survival rate is lower. On the carrier side, the survival rate is very high and it's very stable. And then over the last few years, the insurtech revolution, right? I've recorded nearly 700 episodes about this. Um, so the technology that's coming into the industry is super exciting. And one thing that was not a thing, let's say 20 years ago. So on the agency side, it's always been a thing that you can build your book, and then if you want to do things better, you can leave and build another book on your own, right? Maybe you have a little bit of a non-compete or a non-solicit or whatever, but it doesn't take a ton of capital to start an agency. On the carrier side, it was very hard to go off on your own, right? Uh, because of the amount of capital that would be needed. Well, with the insurtech world, I can't tell you how many people, both from the agency and the carrier side, like dyed in the wool longtime insurance professionals who are starting their own insurtechs and being successful. And there's a whole
Yeah.
ecosystem around that, right? So I love that.
Yeah.
The other thing that I really love is seeing the industry uh, get better at DEI
Mhm.
in in starts and in fits and starts. And right now, politically, it's a bad environment. Right, just a reality. Hopefully, it gets better. Uh, I love to see organizations like Insure Equality, organizations like Rice, Rising Insurance Star Executives, and there's so many others uh, that put their heart and soul into making our industry a better employer, a better career.
Yeah.
My own insurance nerds. Uh, I love when somebody on chatwithtony.com uh, is not coming from insurance, right? Especially like a student, non-RMI student, calling me and saying, how do I get into insurance? Every time I'm like, really? How did you even hear about us? But I'm
What
hearing
did
that
they
more and
say?
more. I'm hearing that more, not enough, but more and more. So that gives me great hope for the future. Also, uh, Gen Zers have done us a great. For me, I think of everything in generational terms because I made my name as the millennials and insurance guy, which is really weird because I'm 42 now, right? So it's so weird to that like, and now I have people calling me for career advice who are 20 years younger, and that is mind
Yeah.
blowing to the guy who thinks of. And I have no kids, so I think of myself as like the young insurance professionals guy, and I'm now 42, right? So uh, Gen Zers have done us a great favor on the mental health side,
Mhm.
right? And all of a sudden, I'm going to insurance conferences in the last couple of years, and I'm seeing conversations out in the open. I'm seeing panels about mental health. I'm seeing Project 55. I'm seeing Heather Blevin's project on claims mental health. Little by little, we're starting those conversations that were super taboo just a few years ago, and
Yeah.
that is fantastic. So those are some of the things that give me great hope for the future of our industry and the great people that work in our industry.
There really is a lot of heart and soul in insurance. That is
Has
for
always
sure.
been.
That is for sure. And something that I'd love to offer to the listeners is here is a common complaint that I hear in insurance, which is it's not the sexiest industry. We don't have the most enticing story to tell younger folks to get them into the industry. And here's what I say to that. The industry is not going to suddenly provide a script on a different way to talk about it. It takes each person inside of it that's already familiar with the people, familiar with the industry and how it operates, and the heart and soul that is behind it to start telling their version of the story. And then the story begins to shift when all these people are out there telling a story. And so I would encourage people and even challenge you to say, like, what is the version of the story that you can go out and talk about that is enticing, that does make sense to a younger generation to get them involved? You know, having a stable career is very, very, very important and somewhat rare right now. And I think that that's a great selling point, but
Yep,
also like,
Gen Z is looking for that,
yeah, they are.
desperately looking for that.
They are.
Um,
And like I said, I work with a lot of people in tech too. And it's like the layoffs, the restructuring, the reorgs in those kind of companies. It's
Constant.
so yes, yes, yes. Consistent and constant. And so, anyways, tell their version of the industry that is a story that's personal to you and that does show the fun, the steadiness, the heart and the soul and the value of the industry.
I if I've learned anything over the last 15 years in this industry, um, insurance is staffed by people who care because you can make more money in banking,
Yeah,
right? Now you can make good money in insurance and you can have good work-life balance. Uh, but people don't stay here for the long term just for the money.
right.
They stay here for the long term because they realize that what we're doing is good for society. And they realize that their fellow insurance professionals are good people. And that combined with the stability and everything else keeps them here. Uh,
Yeah.
and I 1,000% agree and emphasize your point about telling the right story. Uh, uh, I the question that I ask is, uh, did any of your kids follow you into insurance? If none of your kids follow you, like if your kids are all grown and none of them followed you into insurance, what went wrong, right?
Hmm.
And the positive side of that coin is talk to your kids about how awesome your insurance career is. Talk to your nieces and nephews. Talk to your kids' friends. Talk to like go talk a career day at their school, right? Help us get the word out about what a great industry this is. Mike Koselmi, former president of the CPC Society and a great mentor to so many of us, to like an entire generation of young CPCUs. Mike says, stop apologizing for working in insurance. And I agree with that completely also.
But
Uh,
that goes back to the story. I mean, that, you know, like flip that script right there.
mhm.
why are we apologizing instead of educating, informing, and inspiring
Absolutely.
people? And I like your point around people stay in the industry beyond because they see the value. But I
Hmm.
also think that insurance companies, whether it's on the broker or carrier side or insurtech, can do a better job of helping
Oh,
align a personal
uh,
purpose
we,
with
we,
the
we need to
organizational
do
purpose, with the industry purpose.
a much better job. Much better job. Much. You and I could totally sit down and record an hour-long podcast just on the things that the companies, whether they're agencies, carriers, or insurtechs, should do better when it comes to telling their own story and when it comes to helping people find their own way within the industry. We're horrible at that
Yeah.
as an industry. Now
Yes.
there's insurance nerds, chat with Tony. There's coaches. There's many resources nowadays, but the company's not going to give them to you in orientation, right?
Right.
You have to go out of your way uh, and Google a little bit, and we that can't be what's needed for success, right?
But this goes back to the first pillar of the Nourished Leader Way, which is self-leadership, taking
So
accountability,
for,
responsibility.
from the career advice perspective, yes, from the career advice perspective, take ownership of your career, learn all you can about insurance, seek mentors, etc., etc. But from the industry perspective, let's also fix it so that the more clueless ones of us get a roadmap
Yeah.
to find help, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Jenn, a real pleasure. Out of time, and I do have another podcast in a couple of minutes.
I
Uh,
have another call in 3 minutes.
uh,
Yeah.
a real pleasure. You are welcome back on the podcast whenever. When this goes live, I will tag both you and the company on LinkedIn. I encourage the listeners if you made it this late into the call, at the very least, go subscribe to the newsletter. Jenn Urso, Jenn with double N's. It's in the show notes. Go subscribe to the newsletter. And if you made it this late into the recording, chances are you have a need for the very unique skill set that Jenn is bringing. Uh, Thank you so much for
Thank
today,
you, Tony.
and look forward to see you around Atlanta since we're both Atlanta based.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'm in Asheville, North
Oh,
Carolina.
okay, okay. You
I
came
actually
down from Meg's
drove
event.
to, yes, I drove to Atlanta for that event. I'm
How
glad that
how
I
far of a
did.
drive is that?
3.5 hours.
Okay, good for you. Good
Yeah,
for
thank
you. And
you.
I hear Asheville's a lot of fun. I need to go check out Asheville. Uh, Thank you for your time, and
Thank you.
hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you.
Okay.